Lately, there's been a lot of Pokemon Champions news that's been coming out, but they've been leaving us with a lot of blanks. So today, I did want to talk about this subject that a lot of people have been bringing up, and that's this idea that IVs and also PP Ups could potentially be gone in Pokemon Champions. Now, when I talk about PP Ups, I'm not talking about like the item PP Ups. I'm just talking about the general ability to increase the power points on our Pokemon's moves. Because of course, I don't think items like this are going to be in the game, but you would think that they would allow us to increase the power points with VP, right? But I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. So my main points for this video that I wanted to cover are, what are the chances that IVs and PP ups are actually gone in Pokemon Champions? Because it's not confirmed or anything, but there's a lot of speculation about it just based on what we've seen in some of the trailers. And then I also wanted to talk about what would happen if IVs are gone and what would happen if PP ups are gone. So, are IVs gone? And I think this one, it makes sense to lean a little bit more towards the side of yes. If we look at these screenshots that I took from the trailer, the thing that a lot of people have been pointing out here is that there's not a clear way to change IVs, right? Like there's nothing here that indicates that, you could go in and change the IVs. Obviously, we have this stat point system that is here to replace EVs, but yeah, there's nothing here that really indicates the ability to change IVs. And also, if you actually were to go through and look at all like the stats for anything that they've shown in the trailers, it all lines up with having 31, so max IVs in every single stat. So I think there's a very high chance that IVs are gone. There's just nothing to indicate that we actually have the ability to change them, or that they're even like a something that we can like view in this game. So it seems like they've kind of just scrapped them and then made it so that all their stats are like equivalent to if they had 31 in every IV. So that's kind of interesting. The one that I'm a little bit more skeptical about, but it's definitely a possibility, is are PP ups gone? Or like I was saying before, the ability to increase the PP on your moves. And I made this little slideshow here to go through everything, but I took a bunch of screenshots from the trailers, and there is no instance in which you can see a move with increased PP, and that's a bit concerning. I think there's a lot of negative implications that this could have. IVs as well, of course, but PP ups being gone especially would be very, very bad, I think. But also, if we go back here, right, this screen with the moves and the stat points, there's nothing here either to indicate any sort of way to modify the PP on that screen. So, but yeah, on these other screens, I didn't see anything that says you can increase the PP, and there's no instance where PP is increased on any of the moves. So I think it's definitely something a bit concerning that we have to take note of. It doesn't mean that there is no ability to increase PP in the game, right? Like I think there's potentially other screens that they could have that you can, I don't know, go in and increase the power points, but I don't know. It's definitely somewhat worrying. I do think as well, like these trailers, or at least this trailer that all these were taken from, was 7 months ago, and it's very possible that the game just like wasn't done, and so maybe there will be another button somewhere to change the PowerPoints, and the same could be said for IVs, although once again I think that's a bit less likely. It would just completely flip the game on its head if we weren't able to change the PowerPoints, and I'll tell you what I mean in a little bit, but I want to talk about what happens if IVs are gone first. And probably not much is actually going to happen if IVs are not in the game. I mean, there are some specific interactions, but it's all very, very niche and something that would probably not affect the general gameplay. The first one, no more zero attack IVs. So pretty much every special attacker runs zero attack IVs right now in competitive, and that's basically just to reduce the damage from foul play. But the damage reduction that you get from changing 31 to 0 is like very insignificant in like 99% of cases. This is definitely not going to matter, or at least I really don't think it will, because just it's one move that's not even really run that much, and the amount of damage reduction is just not there anyways. So yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned about this whole thing where, okay, you can't have like zero attack on your Pokemon anymore. The thing that I think people are a little bit more sort of iffy on and somewhat divided is, how much is it going to matter for speed optimizations? And, if you look at something like a Mungus, it often runs 27 speed IVs because it wants to underspeed Ursaluna so that in Trick Room it's faster. But outside of Trick Room, it still wants that extra bit of speed for potential scenarios where you might have speed control and you want to outspeed the opposing Pokemon, right? So that's kind of interesting. But, as soon as you start setting everything to 31, well, now you don't have to worry about that as much anymore, because you're always underspeeding Ursaluna anyways, and you're always having max speed IVs anyways. So for Amoonguss, for example, I really don't think it matters too much. One of the more polarizing cases I think would be for Urshifu Single Strike, because Urshifu Single Strike right now in Regulation F, we can see it run on hard Trick Room teams. And so in the future, if those hard Trick Room teams were to come back in like a similar capacity and they wanted to run Urshifu Single Strike, it would be a lot more difficult for them to do so, because what they do right now is they run 0 speed on the Urshifu Single Strike with a minus speed nature, and that allows them to underspeed a lot of Pokemon. It's a bit of a like surprise factor as well, because it's so much slower than you might expect it to be, because it's able to run that 0 speed. And that's one of those cases where I think not having the ability to change the speed really does matter. That being said, that's like only one Pokemon that I can really think of that really fits that. And most of the time you're going to want to be running this Pokemon fast anyways. So I think this is significant, but it's not so significant that it would like completely change the game or anything like that. Like this is one Pokemon on one team. It's not like end of the world. Incineroar is another one as well where the speed IVs could matter, and I wanted to talk about this because this is the one that people are using basically as their biggest example on like in like Twitter discussions. And I think the big thing with Incineroar, right, is like some people in certain formats were running 29 speed IVs on Incineroar, and the main idea with this is that you can underspeed the other Incineroars so that you're always slower and you get the slower parting shot or slower U-turn or whatever. And people's concern with something like this is that, okay, well, if you don't allow people to have this option, you're taking away skill expression. And to some extent, I think it's like a valid argument, but I also don't think it's so significant that like it really matters that much. Once again, like I don't think that that's like the main form of skill expression or anything. And I also understand the fact that people don't want the game to be like, I guess, sort of quote unquote dumbed down in some way, but I don't really think this dumbs down the game at all. Or if it does, it's so insignificant. I mean, I don't even think people will notice too big of a difference. And like, if you really wanted your Incineroar to always underspeed the other Incineroars, go ahead and run a minus speed nature. I don't know. I'm sure that has other drawbacks that the 29 speed would not necessarily have, but you still have like a fair bit of options to run different sets and like play around with speed a bit. So I don't really think that the minor speed optimization stuff is gonna come up too much. I think once again the biggest cases are for Pokemon like Urshifu that are trying to be run in Trick Room, and they would be normally fast Pokemon, but you're specifically trying to run them as a slow Pokemon for that team. And yeah, but I don't think it matters too much. I don't think that this is going to make the game worse in any way. I don't think it'll make it better either. Like, I think it's a very sort of neutral change. And I also don't think it makes it a lot more accessible. Like, I understand that's the whole idea for, and the argument, like, for them removing IVs is the idea that, okay, you're removing this extra layer and it makes the game a little bit more accessible to newcomers. I don't really think that's true. I don't think it's that hard to understand IVs. It's just an extra layer of, like, stats that you can distribute to your Pokemon. But I don't think it I don't think it makes the game somehow more accessible to take it away. I personally would say that we would probably be a little bit better off if we had IVs, but like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, to me, it doesn't matter, and I think to most people it really won't matter. The thing that will matter a lot more if it comes true is this idea that PP ups might be gone, and so if PP ups are gone, there's a lot of moves that have 5 PP by default, and these moves become extremely difficult to run. And I have some Pokemon at the bottom here: Calyrex, Shadow Rider, Goldengo, and Dragonite. And you look at these Pokemon's, well, for Calyrex, Shadow Rider, and Goldengo, their signature moves, Astral Barrage and Make It Rain, with 5 PP as the default. I mean, that becomes very, very difficult to run. I think Goldengo has a bit less of a problem. It always has the option to sort of nasty plot, and then it can run through things a little bit easier. Calyrex Shadow Rider has that same option, but I think it can get stalled out a little bit easier in the formats that it's strong in. But either way, I think it can be a big issue. And then for Dragonite, also extreme speed. There's a lot of extreme speed users. I just chose Dragonite to show here, but there's a lot of different moves that would be hurt by this. I don't think moves with like 10 PP and above would be as like they wouldn't have as much of an issue. I certainly don't think moves like Protect would really suffer too much from something like this. And anything else I can think of with 10 PP, like it's not really too big of an issue. But there's a big issue with this overall. I think is that you can have PP stalling strategies that we never really had in VGC before, or if we did, it was like very very niche cases, like with Eternatus. I think in recent formats we had Eternatus try and PP stall, but it wasn't very effective, right? Like it's not it existed, but it wasn't actually good. The problem is here, if you have moves that only have like 5 PP, and even like the 10 PP moves actually get hurt by this too. You have something like Eternatus sitting there, you can only click 3 5 PP moves and then it's done. And if you clicked it at all beforehand, okay, well now you only get 2 of those moves into the Eternatus. There's a lot of other Pokemon with pressure as well. I think one of the Pokemon that people have been bringing up is Dusclops. It's a very bulky Pokemon. It'd be very easy to stall with it with like Pain Split and just some of the other tools that it has. And that could be a big issue. And the other thing I wanted to mention here as well is when you're trying to run these strong moves, if they only have 5 PP, it requires you to make a lot more reads. And some people, I guess, don't mind this, but I think adding more like potentially like 50/50s to the game is not the most positive thing for it. I think a lot more skill expression comes from like positioning, and there is a fair bit of skill expression in when it comes to like reads, but just adding more of them straight up, I don't think that it's really, especially when once again it's like a 50/50 read. It's not like you're necessarily pressuring them to do anything else. And so when you have like Calyrex Shadow Rider, for example, and you're trying to spam Astral Barrage. If you can only click Astral Barrage 5 times in an entire game, you really have to think twice about when you're clicking it. Because a lot of times it's like, oh, okay, these Pokemon might try to like double protect to stall out a turn of Tailwind, for example, right? Let's say it's the last turn of Tailwind that you have. And it's like, okay, well, I might as well just click Astral Barrage because I don't really have anything to lose. If they don't protect, then I just like remove them or whatever. When you have only 5 PP, well, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I only have 2 or 3 PP left. If they double protect on my Astral Barrage and I use up this PP, well, I might not have enough Astral Barrages to actually win the game afterwards. So now it creates this extra 50-50 that you have to play where, okay, it's the last turn of Tailwind that they have. You know, it makes sense for them to double protect, but they could also call me out on not clicking Astral Barrage because I want to preserve my PP. And then you can, like, they might make a read and knock out the Calyrex because it just decides to click Psychic or some other like support move that it has, or Nasty Plot, or whatever the other option might be. That, you know, normally Astral Barrage would be safe, but because you only have 5 PP, it becomes completely unsafe. And so this warps the game in a way that I think is very negative for it overall. I really hope that PP is not gone. I don't think it'll be gone. Like, realistically, I still have a fair bit of you know, faith that it's just I don't know, either the game was not like completely finished at the time for those trailers, and so it just wasn't like you didn't see it on those screens, that there's like a different screen to change it or something like that. Because it is a bit peculiar that like there was no instances of PP having been increased in those trailers. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit concerning, and I did want to talk about this because I think it could be a really big issue if it comes out. And I hope if they do release it and there isn't a way to increase the power points of moves, that they listen to people and update the game and allow power points to be increased. Now, there's one last thing that I wanted to just quickly talk about, because this came up like while I was making the slideshow, and that is, when will we find out mainly just like the answers to these questions, like is there you know, PowerPoint increasing, is there IVs? And you know, we just got this tweet from Sarah B saying that Pokemon Champions is actually going to have a playable demo at PAX East. I guess it's just some big convention. I don't really follow that stuff too much, but it's some sort of big, I don't know if it's like a gaming convention or whatever, at the end of March. So depending on, you know, how unrestricted this demo is, because I imagine it won't be too restricted, this will be the type of thing that I hope people go in and try to find out at this demo. Because this is definitely, like, these are some big questions that we really want answered. And I think most likely someone will go in and try to find these things and figure out, okay, are IVs in the game? Can we increase the power points of our moves? And yeah, I think there was also some rumors about like a potential trailer coming out at the end of March, so that might just line up with this, and maybe we'll get some more information in that. But yeah, this demo is the big thing that I'm looking forward to potentially see, you know, if we're going to be able to figure out before the game releases, like, do we have these options or do we not have these options? Anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed and liked. And if you have anything to add, I would really also appreciate you comment down below. Thank you for watching. Bye.